Today I'd like to tell you about my favorite animal. My favorite animal is the hedgicorn. The hedgicorn looks like a hedgehog, but like a unicorn it has a horn right in the middle of its head. They don't have any magical powers, but the hedgicorn is doing their best. The hedgicorn has never met another of their kind. They don't know where they came from. They don't mind. They like quiet. They like to hide in libraries a lot. They brush up against the feet of people that are in there reading and try to get bugs or berries from them as treats. The hedgicorn has seen a lot of the world. Kind travelers have picked them up for rides. They have wandered into airports and been given a snuggly spot in an empty overhead compartment. Not everyone sees the hedgicorn, but those that do are kind. Sometimes the hedgicorn likes to cuddle up with a nice person for the night. The person doesn't always even know the hedgicorn is there. They find a comfy home late at night and feel a lonely person who needs a friend, and they just find a tiny hole to sneak into the home to visit. Mostly, though, the hedgicorn likes to find people's winter clothes. Their favorite is to sleep in someone's colorful scarf or hat, sometimes in the pockets of sweatshirts. They like the light smell of people, but the warm, cozy quiet. Anger and loud noises scare the hedgicorn and cause them to scamper away on their tiny little legs. Sometimes, though, the hedgicorn will find animals smaller than themselves. When this happens, and a loud noise happens, they don't run, but stand protectively between the smaller animal and the noise, tiny horn pointed defiantly in defense. The hedgicorn visited a beach once. They didn't like the heat or the brightness, but they loved the sound of the gentle waves lapping at the sand. Someone let the hedgicorn sit under their umbrella with them. Someone else gave the hedgicorn a tiny bowl of pineapple juice. It was so sweet. The hedgicorn has never had people try to capture them or hurt them. They were a remarkably good judge of character and only showed themselves to strangers who they were quite sure would be kind. Sometimes people made mistakes, of course. One kindly stranger let the hedgicorn sleep in a cozy pocket of their shirt while they watched something on a screen. They had the sound quite loud, but they saw how the hedgicorn's quills straightened, and then they turned the sound very low. Something on the screen upset them later, and they made a shout. This startled the hedgicorn quite badly, and they scrambled out of the stranger's pocket, making upset, puffing noises. The stranger looked sad and immediately stopped making noise. They apologized to the hedgicorn repeatedly. It took the hedgicorn a few minutes to calm down, but eventually they crawled back into the stranger's pocket. They knew everybody makes mistakes now and then. The rest of that evening passed quite peacefully, and the stranger was careful to not watch things that upset them after that. The hedgicorn stayed with that stranger overnight. In the morning they gave the stranger's hair an affectionate nibble and continued on their way. Once the hedgicorn wandered into a cafe. A barista set them on a shelf on the back wall so they could watch the coffee being made without having to interact with all the customers. They tried a biscotti, but did not like how dry it was. They liked the sound of milk being steamed. They liked the cafe better at night. It was warm and smelled like earth and people and held the echoes of joyful chatter. They found a big mug that was wide enough for them to curl up in to sleep. One time, someone tied a little rainbow ribbon around the hedgicorn's horn. The hedgicorn loved all the colors and how it seemed to glitter sometimes in the sunlight. They happily wore it for weeks and were careful not to bump their horn on things lest the ribbon come off. Eventually, though, the ribbon came undone, and it washed away in a bad rainstorm. The hedgicorn cried, and they felt an emptiness where the ribbon had been. A kind person found the hedgicorn and took them to a soft, dry place and fed them bugs and read them stories. After a couple days, the hedgicorn felt less sad, even if the emptiness wasn't totally gone. They were glad for the joy the ribbon had brought them and the memory of the kindness of the gift. They resolved to keep a rainbow inside them, since the one on their outside was gone. Humans were not the only strangers that the hedgicorn met. They had seen both hedgehogs and unicorns, not at the same time. With each, they delighted in seeing what they had in common, and also were excited to show off their differences. Someone brought the hedgicorn to a movie theater once. They liked the darkness right before the movie started, and the hushed anticipation of a group of people all waiting to go on a journey together. They didn't like the noise or the yelling of the movie. Popcorn was yummy, though. Someone else took the hedgicorn to an orchestra, performing a series of soft, mournful songs. The Hedgicorn liked this very much. The songs made them think of their missing ribbon and the chill of bad rain and kind people they wouldn't see again. They wished there was popcorn. Someone brought their Hedgicorn to game night. The Hedgicorn found the rolling of dice startling at first, but comforting as the evening went on. They didn't understand the game, but some of the pieces felt nice to gnaw on. They napped in the game box while the humans played. Some of the kind strangers the Hedgicorn has met invited them to stay, to make a home with them. The Hedgicorn was always happy to be so loved, but has never agreed. The world is too big, with too much beauty and so many new, kind people to meet for them to ever stop wandering. Some days the Hedgicorn didn't feel very well. On those days they tried to keep still and stay warm and cozy and inside. The world was too beautiful for them to travel when they were sick. They would miss too much joy. So instead they would rest until they were well. Sometimes if they felt ill, they would find a kind stranger who was also ill and join them for a while. Some of these strangers had been sick for much longer than the Hedgicorn and had started missing the world's beauty. The Hedgicorn liked to find these people and make them smile. One day, a kind stranger took the Hedgicorn to an art museum. The stranger held the Hedgicorn up so they could see all the paintings and sculptures. The sculptures felt cold and lonely to the Hedgicorn, but the paintings were so varied in style and color and form they felt alive. The art museum had a special room made entirely out of mirrors. When the Hedgicorn was let in, the room was filled with billions of other Hedgicorns. Every direction had the same prickles, the same black nose, the same small horn, the same curious eyes. This didn't interest the Hedgicorn much at all. A world full of Hedgicorns just like them was boring. Meeting strangers was how they saw new things and learned more about the beauty of the world. They puffed softly and scratched the door to be let out. Sometimes people asked the Hedgicorn where they came from. They seemed concerned. "Don't you want to know who your family is?" one asked. This confused the Hedgicorn. They knew who their family was. Their family was huge and sprawling. It was made of each of the strangers who had opened their homes or their cozy sweatshirt pockets or their airplane storage compartments to the Hedgicorn. It was the kind ones who asked them if they wanted to stay, but understood when they didn't. The Hedgicorn had so much family and was adding more all the time. What more was there to know? They were always finding new family members. They had so many places that they could call home. The Hedgicorn felt a little sad for this stranger, who did not know that you could find more family. The family could be scattered and near and distant and made of so many people and hedgehogs and unicorns, and it didn't have to make sense. The Hedgicorn nuzzled the stranger softly on the hand, making their soft, crackly purring noise. This person, too, could be part of their family. They hoped the stranger understood that. They hoped the stranger felt their own family grow that day. There was one kind stranger that wanted to write about the Hedgicorn. They knew that the Hedgicorn was special, and they wanted to write about all the things the Hedgicorn had seen and all the strangers the Hedgicorn had met, so that everyone could share these bits of beauty in the world. Of course, the Hedgicorn had no way of telling this kind stranger of all the places they'd been, of this rainbow ribbon and the room of Hedgicorns and the comforting peace of the cafe at night. So the stranger had to guess. They did their best. When they were done, they read the story to the Hedgicorn. They told the Hedgicorn of all the adventures they thought the Hedgicorn might have had, each accompanied by rough sketches of a small, puffy ball of quills with a single horn on top. When the story was done, they paused, looking hopeful. The Hedgicorn chewed on a corner of one of the pieces of paper to show they liked the story. That night, the stranger folded the papers in half to make a book out of them. They put this book half open on the ground so it made a triangle, like a tent. There was just enough room underneath for a Hedgicorn. The Hedgicorn snuggled underneath the special book made just for them, a small ball of prickles with bright, curious eyes. In this safe little space, the Hedgicorn slept. They dreamed of all the adventures they had had, and all the adventures still to come.